We're cooking this weekend. Okay, so yeah, we're still eating down the pantry, but I decided we're gonna mess around a little bit. So this weekend I'm making one thing we've never made before, one thing that we make all the time, and something I haven't made in quite some time. Let me show you the new thing first. So I've been prepping stuff. Trust me, I need to prep. I will link this for you as well, but check this out. See this cake right here? Doesn't that look just absolutely wild? Okay, what we're making today is called the world's greatest cake. Isn't that cool? Now, where I found it, I was just randomly scrolling. It was one of those early mornings, had my coffee in hand, came across a guy online that was on a cruise, but it was one of the winter cruises up, I think, Norway or Finland. I honestly don't remember. I think it's Norway. But anyway, he went to the buffet. And they pointed out that you had to try this, and it was called the world's greatest cake. And it just looked so intriguing, I decided to try it. So, got the mixer out. Let's make a cake. So first things first is I've got a half a cup of butter and a half a cup of sugar in here. And now it says you need to beat this until it's light and fluffy. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next ingredients. So I started working on this and totally realized I had the paddle on instead of the whisk. So let's start actually whisking it until it's light and fluffy. Okay, one egg yolk at a time. I kind of broke one. Okay, so before I add the milk, I'm going to give this a scrape. Now, since I broke one of the egg yolks, I'm going to put the 4 tablespoons of milk in the bowl so I don't lose out on any of the egg yolks. Whoops, sorry guys. All right. I'm going to turn this back on. I'll be back with the egg yolk. No, the milk. It's separated, so I'm really hoping I didn't make a mess out of this, but I guess we'll find out in a minute. Oh well. Hopefully it tastes good. I guess we'll find out. All right. Now it's the rest of it. Okay, so what I got in the bowl is 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and a teaspoon of vanilla sugar, which conveniently I have. We bought this when we were in Tunis. Okay, let's add the flour and see if I can fix this because it's separated. All right, let's scrape it down. Oh, that actually looks better now. Whether it's supposed to separate, I honestly couldn't tell you. All right. So it does say just mix till combined, so I'm just going to give it a couple more zhuzhes, and then we'll put it in the pans. Here we go. All right, let's go to the island. I have 2 pans, so apparently you're supposed to do a 12 by 16, which is basically 2 of these together. And the recommendation is to butter the pan and then put the parchment down, because this batter is so thick you could actually move the parchment around if you're not careful. Yes, this is why I wore an apron today. Oh my gosh, this is ever messy. All right, let's cut it in half. We'll put half on one and half on the other. At least I hope it's half. I can tell you it smells really good. All right. So it's got to be very, very thin. So let's spread this out. Oh gosh, yeah, I know what they mean when they said it's going to be super, super thick. Now, if this is a cake you're familiar with, tell me now if I've totally messed it up. Or at the end. You can save the Tammy, you screwed it up to the end if you want to save my feelings. Now, when I watched the video, if I can find the same video that I watched as well, I'll share it. But when I watched a video, it was actually this thin. So I'm really hoping that this comes out all right. How she got it so even though, oh my gosh, I wish I could figure that one out. All right, I'm gonna finish spreading these out. Then I have to wash the mixer and the whisk because the next thing we're doing is the meringue. I'm gonna fight with this because you don't need to hear that. I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I have thoroughly cleaned the mixer because if I do not get all of the fats out, these egg whites will never, ever get fluffy. So we are going to lightly beat these and then we're going to start adding 1 cup of flour. Sorry, sugar. Wow. I know the sugar is nowhere near dissolved yet. I'm just going to scrape down the sides. And then we're going to crank this up, let it do its thing. And then I'll show you what we're going to do next to this cake. Because this could be interesting. I'm not quite sure I have it. Oh yeah, that's not bad. It's almost there, guys. So I did put the sugar in too fast, so it's taking me a little bit longer to make this nice and fluffy. I'm gonna let this go for about another minute, and then we're gonna put these cakes together because the oven is ready to go. Okay, so where'd my spatula go? So the way it works is half goes on one and half goes on the other. Yeah, there's still some granulated sugar in there. I definitely went too fast, but this is the first time I've ever made it. I'm gonna screw it up, but it's still gonna taste good, so I don't care. Oh my gosh, alrighty. All right, let's spread this around. Without killing the nice, pretty meringue. It is very, very thin, isn't it? Some of this from the middle and down to the sides. Whoops. Yes, my hands are clean before you ask. There we go. I'm gonna say it again, if you've made this, if you happen to be from where this comes from, and I've totally murdered it, if what I found and what I was reading, I misunderstood anything, please let me know, because this looks like such a cool recipe that I'm so totally gonna try this again. I'm having too much fun right now. Okay, you guys, I've told you this before. I like playing. I like messing around. I like learning stuff new. I think I'm going to do this, though. Share the wealth, so to speak. Because this one actually does look like it's definitely a little thicker. All right. All right, so my meringue isn't the best. Like I said, it's pretty grainy, but I haven't made pavlova meringue in so long that I really just kind of winged it. It happens. All right. Get all that in there. Get all that in there. We don't want to waste anything. Why waste it? Okay. Let me clean my hands up and then I'll show you the next step. So you guys remember the slivered almonds we bought when we went shopping there not that long ago? They go on the top. Like that. I don't know how many you're supposed to have on there, but I like almonds. Fred likes almonds. We're just going to put a bunch of almonds. And we got a couple of empty spots. Can't have empty spots. All right, so these will go in the middle oven, middle rack, sorry, of the oven at 325. Now my oven is a little colder, so I have it set to 335 for 30 minutes. And while these are cooking, we're going to be doing the cream that goes in the middle. All right, I'm going to put these in the oven. All righty. Next step. So now the next thing we need to make is the vanilla custard. So I've got a 1/4 cup of sugar in here, but I also added the last of the vanilla sugar from that package as well as part of the 1/4 cup. Because you're supposed to use a vanilla bean, but I don't have a vanilla bean. What I have is that Watkins Pure Vanilla, and we're going to use that. So first things first. We have 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. We need to add 2 large egg yolks. Ah! All right, I caught it. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that takes talent. All right, so I was gonna save these egg whites to mix up for a meringue, but now there's egg yolks in them, they'll never actually fluff. Alrighty, so we're gonna whisk the egg whites and the sugar together, first of all. Now, before this really gets going, we need to add 2, how much? 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. 1, all right. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And mix until light and pale and fluffy, I believe. Pale, yellow, and thick. All right. Oh, there we go. Pale and yellow. Very thick. Time to go to the stove. Now, you're supposed to use whole milk, but I don't have whole milk. I just have milk. Now, normally, for the recipe, you would take the vanilla beans, scrape them in, add it to the milk, and let it heat. Or you can use a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Hi, everybody. Future Tammy here. So I'm popping up in the middle of this video to say, yeah, there's a chunk missing. So I thought I'd tell you how that custard gets made. So I warmed the milk up, did not boil it. Once it was at a really nice, where you can see the little tiny bubbles around the edges, I stirred some into the eggs to warm it up, add a little bit more, put it all back in the pot. Then I cooked it until it got thick. Okay, don't ask me what happened to the rest of the video, but here's the rest of making that cake. Oh my gosh, check that out. Do they just not look phenomenal? I mean, wow. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. All right, now these have to cool before we do anything else. And the custard sitting in here getting cold as well. By the way, wicked pro tip. Put saran wrap on that stuff while it's hot, and you don't get that weird, you know, crusty top. I don't know how to describe it, but you won't get it. Anyway, yay. Alrighty, this just looks totally cool. Like phenomenally cool. Alright, I can't touch them until they get cold. They can break. So, we're on a standstill. Are we ready for this? Okay, so these are cool. And the custard is in the fridge. Here's our custard. So, the recipe calls for 300 milliliters of heavy whipping cream to make whipped cream out of. I didn't feel like buying 2 little ones or the next size up. So this is just one of the little 1 cup whipping creams. We'll get every drop out of there. Okay. So we're going to whip this up first. There we go. Whipped cream. Now before we mix everything together, we're gonna prep this, and this is gonna look weird, okay? All right, so I got my platter. Now the kicker is for the platter, it's not big enough. It will actually be a hair too small. So, first one cake. And I've not peeked. I have no idea whether this worked or not. I mean, we're gonna seriously find out. So one of the things that I saw was put the platter on and then flip the whole thing over and then pry it out. Like that. And then pull the paper off. I am totally proud of myself when it comes to putting this paper on, by the way. Now, I think I cooked it a bit too long, but I'm all right with that. Now, alrighty. Some of the almonds fell off. They're not going to go to waste. All right, so we're going to put that aside. Get our whipped cream. Get our custard. So I'm going to stir a little bit of the custard in first, just to make sure I can fold properly, because I haven't folded anything in years. There we go. And since I don't have the full amount of whipped cream, I'm not going to put all the custard in. I'll probably save some, because I'm not lying. This stuff tastes really, really good. And I just want to eat it. All right. Well, apparently I still know how to fold things. Doesn't that look good? You know, I'm going to taste it. Wow. It's got a fabulous flavor. Not ridiculously sweet either. Alrighty. So this is how this works. Are you ready for this? We've got this one. Yes, it is upside down. Okay? You put the custard in. Now, of course, the ones that I washed in the one in the recipe is definitely lighter than this. I definitely think I did something not quite right, but I'm not worried. Are you guys worried? You shouldn't be worried. The smell is wonderful. Oops, overhang, that's all right. Am I worried? No. So the hard part is going to be to find a spot in the fridge for this whole thing to cool and get cold. There we go. Now I got to go and get the other one. Well, that was tidy. Oh. Okay. Now I got to try and get the other one out of the tray and on top of this one. So I'm going to cheat. We're going to use the other baking pan and turn the whole thing upside down. Take the pan off. Pry the paper off. That one doesn't look too bad, does it? And now I got to try and get it on top of that. So, let's see. Ooh, doo, doo, doo. Are we ready? I'm not ready for this. Okay. Ah, we did it! Hold on, let me wash my hands. Okay, that is the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. Check it out. Just doesn't that look wonderful? Oh my gosh. That looks great. All right, I'm gonna let it cool because it has to set a little bit. We'll cut into it later on and we'll see what it looks like. Now if it, and tastes like actually. Now if it tastes as good as the custard, we are set. Okay. Are we ready for this? Ah. Look at that. That looks so cool. Alrighty, Freddie. You don't have to be on the camera, but come on over. I need your honest opinion. There you go, dear. Give it a try. Tell me what you think. Ah, let me move this out of the way. There we go. So, I was worried the cake was overcooked, but it doesn't look too bad. Give it a try, Freddie. You just have to push through it with the side of the fork. Don't use the tip, it'll get stuck.
Pretty tough to get through.
The meringue is definitely chewy, which is cool.
That's the reason with the fork.
I'm waiting for your opinion. I don't find it ridiculously sweet. Like a natural sweet. Freddie approved. So it's not too bad, actually. Not overcooked as I thought it was going to be. It would definitely taste really good with some raspberry like sauce on it. Just saying. What do you think, Fred? Good with raspberry, probably?
Had the tang.
Definitely had the tang. Alrighty. That's the something new done. I'm going to finish my cake and then I'm going to prep for the something we make all the time. Okay. Last job of the day. We are making some no-knead bread for tomorrow. So like I said, one thing new, second thing we do all the time, and the third thing, that'll be tomorrow, which is something I haven't done in a long time. So, we are using some of the fabulous flour from Crystal Green Farm. Now this is an unbleached white flour technically, so the brand's been removed. Now this also will suck up more water than just using regular old white flour or regular old all-purpose flour. Now the recipe calls for 3 cups of flour, a half a teaspoon of yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1.5 teaspoons of warm water. We are adding a full teaspoon plus, I don't know, 1/8 of a teaspoon, because this flour is going to be denser. One teaspoon of salt. And 1.5 cups to start of warm water. Now guys, this is going to be mucky. You want it mucky. It's no-knead bread. See how dry that is using the 1.5 cups? So we're gonna add, quite literally, an extra 3/4 of a cup. See how she comes. Oh, yeah. So when you're using whole wheat flour, or basically anything other than a bread flour, it sucks up the liquid, guys. All right, a little bit more. There we go. That should do it. Look at that. Nice and mucky. So, we're going to put some plastic wrap on this. This is going to sit here on the counter all night. It is really, really early. I'm not going to show you what I look like. Fred is making coffee. My coffee. This guy is going into a 450-degree oven. And here is our bread. It doesn't look like much, does it? Okay, it is tomato soup time. So it's actually a pretty easy soup. Now the only thing I don't put in here is heavy cream. So this is the frozen celery and onions that we've had in the freezer. Now these are those really fine chopped ones that we're using. That's the stuff that's great for this kind of soup. There we go. And one roughly chopped garlic. So I'm going to let this start to saute up. And then we'll add the rest of the goodness. And while this is starting to saute up, I am a little bit more awake now. The pot for our bread, which I'm hoping will work because that dough did separate a lot worse than it should have. Screaming hot pot. Now don't forget, when you make the bread, that is a 450-degree oven. All right, there's our parchment paper. You guys remember that. Now this one's a gooey one, so like I said, I'm not exactly sure what happened. But if it works, it works. If not, we'll have a really weird looking loaf of very dense bread. But hey, it may taste good. With our tomato soup. Okay, lid on. This is going to cook for a half an hour at 450. All right, and in a half an hour we'll take the lid off and it'll cook for another 15 minutes. So it may work, it might not, but you know, it happens. There we go. These are starting to thaw out now, so I'm going to add the extra butter. So this recipe here, it's one of the ones from Simply Recipes. I've shared so many of those recipes with you guys before. And it does have flour and things in it, like as a thickener and whatnot. And it does taste pretty good. It's a pretty simple recipe. But we are only making half the size. I got a big pot though, because I got dishes to go. We're using tomatoes, home jarred, and tomato sauce. Now I don't like it as thick as the original recipe, so I only put in like a teaspoon or so of flour. But you also don't want it white. You actually want to let it cook. Cook out the flour. Even if it goes a little bit brown, it's even better. There we go. A little bit of color. So now we're going to add 1 can, or 1 jar, I should say, of tomatoes. 1 jar of my tomato sauce. Now, normally I'd be putting like a couple of cups of chicken stock in here, veggie stock, whatever, but I'm just going to use a veggie cube, like that, and 1 jar of water. So we'll add some salt and pepper. Now these are home canned, of course, tomatoes, so there's next to no salt in there. Salt, pepper, and a little bit of sugar. So this, we're gonna let it sit and simmer. Then we're gonna take the hand blender to it. We're gonna add some milk, and that's it. Homemade tomato soup. So after this simmers for a bit, I'll show you what it looks like. Well, I kind of thought the bread would fail. It just did not look like it should have looked, but then again, I was trying to use up older flour, so hey, it happens. Anyway, guys, time to do the soup. Now, the recipe says to put it in the blender. You can get a nice smooth tomato soup. I actually like soup with some texture to it, so I'm going to use the hand blender. But, key thing, and really important, hand blenders or regular blenders, be careful. It's hot. Oh, doesn't that look good? Done. All right, here's the big question. Are you team milk or cream in your tomato soup? Believe it or not, this one actually tastes pretty good if you add just a little bit of milk. Just a little bit. But I'm turning the heat off while I do it. All right, so I'm only quite literally adding a little bit. Like, that's maybe, I don't know, 1/4 cup, give or take. There we go. Soup for lunch is done. I got my tasty little spoon. Let's see if we need any additional salt and pepper. No. That's perfect. Yay. Alrighty, guys. Lunch is ready. The bread had failed. And we have lots of cake. Lunchtime. Tomato soup. Doesn't that look so good? And a classic grilled cheese sandwich. Not ready to flip yet. Gotta show my failures. So as for my no knead bread, it's more like a no knead huge pancake. Tastes good, but we definitely can't make a grilled cheese sandwich out of that. Oh well. Hey, fails happen. So in other words, tomato soup, 100%. No knead bread, the crows will be happy. The cake, I'm going to change up the cake. I've decided that if I make it again, all the batter will only go in one small pan, and I'll make half the meringue. Because it cooked a little too long, but it still tastes good. Alrighty, everybody. That was our try something new, attempt something that we do all the time, and make something we haven't done in a while. So I'll post the recipes that I use down below, and hopefully yours come out better than mine did. Well, except for the soup. It tastes great. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.